Uh, are we already inspired? I mean, what everybody has been talking, it seems to really it doesn't seem. It's coming from everybody's heart and coming from what they have been doing all through the years. No? So for now, we will do it to inspire us a little bit more. We have the director of Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture, SIARCA, Dr. Glenn Gregorio. Yes, we can ask Dr. Glenn Gregorio to please come up as I introduce him. He is a professor at the Institute of Crop Science, College of Agriculture and Food Science, UPLB, and currently the Center Director for Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture. He was recently appointed Chairman Technical Panel for Agriculture by the Commission of Higher Education sa CHED po, and Steering Committee member of the Department of Agriculture Biotechnology Program. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very own Dr. Glenn Gregorio.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will make my speech very short. Actually, I'm a geneticist, as a statistician, so this is part to be I know the network is very inclusive, and I want to say that the academe or even a geneticist like me or a head of the Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture could join you in this agro-tourism, because ecotourism, this is very near my heart. Again, a truly exciting day to everyone. I think that's a very nice words, Madam Secretary, to be an exciting day to everyone. Congratulations to our long-time CIRCA partners, especially the International School of Sustainable Tourism, and once again the staging of this international ecotourism travel mart, and also recognize the champions a while ago of this ASEAN Ecotourism Network. I hope I'll be joining you soon. Just on a personal note, I'm remembering I have some farms with me, but one of my exciting, I have a farm in Mindanao, which it's a small lot, a bigger lot. We converted into an ecotourism. We converted into a cemetery, which is we have a cafe, we have a jogging area, we have a tree house. So I may say it's an innovative way of we are attracting people going to that place to visit their loved ones, at the same time enjoy nature, big trees. We have sometimes the Philippine eagles are coming there, or the hawk, and this one is in Bukidnon. So that's another way of converting our cemeteries to an ecotourism area. We have a cafe there and all those sort. So, and also we have to thank you, the AEN, for organizing this first green travel mart and selling their fare in the world. And our partners from Asian Center for Biodiversity, our neighbor at the UP Los Baños area, for making this event a sure success. And all of us are here. I know from all over the Philippines, all over Southeast Asia and beyond, we are here to make this happen. For our team today, for embracing authentic ecotourism, an ecotourism festival is a very much relevant, since Southeast Asia is rich in natural and cultural resources. Festivals that we have just witnessed a while ago is very impressive. When I came here, I heard some of our foreign participants, they're saying, this is more than we expected. This is big. They thought this only a miniature example, but the first time. But congratulations, it's huge. Even myself, I thought this is just like a simple garden, a simple like that, but it's huge. We have not seen it yet, but I know it's several kilometers away, walking around to see the displays. So enjoy yourself of all this tourism, which we involve everything from farming families to business, which really make us more excited. So during this time of, during this period of pandemic or time for recovery from the pandemic, it is necessary to revisit the sustainability of ecotourism and agritourism, not only in the environment, economic, and social aspect, but in the business and innovation part of it. we are part of innovation because circa our vision is to have we could attain agricultural innovation through innovation through agriculture innovation to make this happen. So we need innovation to have transformation in our society. The challenge for all of us here is to create a sustainable agritourism, ecotourism products and help the small players and our community, the farmers engage in multi-stakeholders cooperation for product and services development. The key is to empower the local communities which we are all talking about, including indigenous people and women and the ecotourism and the development progress, especially in managing, monitoring, and sharing of ecotourism benefits. So everyone should benefit. This is much within the priority of CIRCA as we focus on accelerating transformation through agricultural innovation towards ecotourism, aligned with CIRCA's UN Sustainable Development Goals commitment. As we promised, we bring a lot of some of our participants from Timor-Leste, from Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines, so they can participate and promote sustainable agritourism and in this international festival. Together, let us inspire and enable each other to prioritize sustainability and resilience in every of our action and ensure that our action align with the needs and the values of our local communities visited by travelers. Let's embrace this challenge to create a more sustainable and resilient ecotourism and travel industry in the next generation. Again, I may mention now the heartbeat of the country can be felt in the condition of our tourism. It means a healthy tourism, means healthy transport, it means healthy agriculture because we provide food, healthy environment, healthy governance. And the name of the game is partnership. Thank you very much and good day to everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Glenn. Truly inspiring. And we would like to call on stage for a special message, Dr. Mundita Lim, who is the director of ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. And as she goes up, I will just say a little about, thank you so much, ma'am. She is the current executive director of the ACB, where she leads the center in facilitating regional cooperation and coordination on biodiversity, conversation, for its conservation and conversation on conservation. Ayaw maging mali. To be sustainably managed and used and equitably shared for the well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, our special message from Dr. Mundita Lim.
Okay, thank you, Chiki. Okay, I'm very honored to be here. To our distinguished partners and guests, Honorable Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco of the Department of Tourism. Ang ganda mo pala, ma'am, sa personal. Sip-sip na kagad, umpisa pala. Honorable Secretary Jaime Bautista of the Department of Transportation, my former colleague in the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Undersecretary Ernesto Adobo Jr., Mr. Masaru Takayama, my seatmate today. Of course, Dr. Mina Gabor, my idol and my mentor on ecotourism. She's the first one who mentioned ecotourism in my lifetime. Honorable Mayor Alston Kevin Anarna of Silang Cavite, thank you for bringing us to this venue. Even if it's a little bit warm, you can feel the fresh air and just going through the tents. Of course, my neighbor in Los Baños, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, Sharka Director, Director Juan Vipa Fanumat of Dasta, Thailand. Our 2022 Miss Earth Queens. And our voices of ASEAN Biodiversity. I look forward to working more closely with you in the coming years. I told my staff I forgot my sash this morning. Your Excellencies from the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from the AEN and ASEAN member states, IETM participants, colleagues, media partners, and friends. Is it still? Good morning. And also Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters. We are truly honored to be part of this momentous event for the environment and tourism sectors, with over 20 nations joining hands for a sustainable future in the world's first ever green travel mart. And so we're really proud to be part of history. The ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, being at the forefront of nature and biodiversity conservation in the ASEAN region, is delighted to partner with the International School for Sustainable Tourism and the Asian Environment Network in the execution of the International Ecotourism Travel Mart. It was during the pandemic, in July 2020, when Dr. Mina Gabor engaged the ACB to present in the ISST organized webinar, Ecotourism Opportunities, with the topic Protecting Our Biodiversity. Before that, of course, Dr. Mina Gabor and I have been collaborating when I was still with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, head of the Protected Areas and Wildlife Bureau, or now the Biodiversity Management Bureau. We've already been collaborating on ecotourism and other sustainable tourism initiatives. But for ACB, when I moved to ACB, she would still contact me to discuss, and she's always very passionate about sustainable tourism, ecotourism, and it really rubs on me. And so, and that's why I couldn't say no when she asked us to actively collaborate with the ISST for this IETM. And of course, the pandemic got in the way, but nevertheless, we had the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed last November 2022 to conduct the IETM. So the last 2 years of lockdowns and quarantine due to COVID-19 has forced us to re-examine our relationship with nature. It was like the universe pressed humanity's pause button and gave the earth a chance to breathe and heal itself. Most of us have witnessed in person or through social media how wild animals have started to reappear and thrive in areas where they haven't been seen for a long time. But then it seems like this was already centuries ago. Vaccines and newer, less fatal COVID variants have rendered most of us immune and has allowed us to physically interact once again and increase our mobility. We are now experiencing the so-called revenge travel. Logically, the places most people want to go to are the outdoors. Once again, tourists are flocking to the beach, to the sea, to go snorkeling or diving, to go up the mountains, to trek through the forest trails, or go birding, watch wildlife, or simply to enjoy the sunset and relish the view of the landscape or seascape. Any activity that can bring them closer to nature. So everyone here agrees that this is just about the right time to promote ecotourism. But this also comes with a reminder that if we are to sustain what we are enjoying now and avoid going back to those scary and lonely times of isolation, we need to be more conscious about how we manage our tourism and our tourism-related activities, and not hurt and irreversibly damage the natural attractions, the biodiversity from where we derive our enjoyment and wellness from. This is particularly important for Southeast Asia, known to be one of the richest regions in the world in terms of biodiversity. In fact, 80% of the 55 declared ASEAN Heritage Parks are prime ecotourism destinations. The ASEAN Heritage Parks are notable protected areas in the region that are recognized for their unique biological and ecological diversity that best represent the ASEAN. Blessed with natural wonders and unique wildlife, the ASEAN countries can indeed work together to make ecotourism one of the region's main drivers of growth. And if implemented properly, as it is defined, ecotourism can contribute towards reducing the rate of biodiversity loss and become one of the region's demonstrable examples of nature-positive industries, contributing immensely to achieving other benefits such as climate resiliency, health and wellness, food and water security, and cultural integrity. Currently, the ACB has been initiating efforts on mainstreaming biodiversity in regional tourism strategies. Our support to ASEAN heritage parks include promoting biodiversity-based enterprises such as ecotourism, which not only generates livelihoods, but enhances environmental awareness and contributes to management effectiveness as well. As reflected in this year's ASEAN theme, ASEAN Matters, the epicentrum of growth, the ACB is ready to work with the tourism industry in the region and beyond in building a shared value that will transform our region into a global hub for sustainable nature tourism. As our contribution to the IETM, we have brought in representatives from the ASEAN Heritage Parks to share their knowledge and experiences in promoting ecotourism and in protected area management. The ACB as well serves as chair of the Ecotourism Forum. In particular, the ACB will be part of Session 3, Environment and its Impact on Ecotourism, with the topic Biodiversity and Wildlife Conservation, scheduled on the afternoon of March 30. We will, of course, be joined by our 2022 Miss Earth Philippines winners. We have Miss Earth Mina Sue Choi, please. Miss Earth Philippines Jenny Ram, Miss Earth Philippines 2022, and of course, Miss Earth Indonesia 2022, Karina Fariza Basrawan. They will be with us in the forum as they will be sharing their advocacies for the environment and for ecotourism. We are also pleased to have with us Mr. Palber Turnip, Deputy Director of the Gunung Loiser National Park, and Ms. Lulu Agustina, Deputy Director of the Directorate of Biodiversity Conservation of Species and Genetics of Indonesia's Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Please give them a big hand. Thank you. The ACB will also be contributing to Session 5, Education for Ecotourism, through the participation of Mr. Kusanondo, Director of another ASEAN Heritage Park in Indonesia, the Waikambas National Park, who will speak on ecotourism destination management. So we will be sharing with you experiences on the ground and see how this can be scaled up, and replicated in some of our other protected areas and proposed ecotourism areas. We also have an interactive exhibit showcasing the different ACB programs and projects in the region, including the ASEAN Heritage Parks program and the successful sustainable livelihood projects under our small grants program. We also invite you to visit our Biodiversity and Art exhibit featuring the works of Ms. Samantha Caspar, a very talented artist diagnosed with autism at a very young age. So you will be able to see her artwork at the exhibit. Her very supported mom, I think, is also here, Ms. Michelle Mitzi Caspar, who used to be also a promoter of tourism in the Philippines, being flight attendant for the Philippine Airlines, and she was one of the prettiest faces in Pulse numerous promotional ads. You may remember her as the flight attendant in The Beauty of the Philippines, Shining Through. So, for those my age. Okay. So she's also here with us today to grace this meaningful event. We will be glad to welcome each of you to our exhibit area to learn more about the rich and colorful natural and cultural heritage of the ASEAN. In closing, let me congratulate our partners in making this event possible. We hope that this is just the beginning of more joint initiatives of the environment and the tourism sectors in shaping a truly responsible and profitable business that redounds to a healthier planet and a healthier people. Thank you so much, and let us take advantage of this opportunity to network and learn from one another in the coming days.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mundita Lim. Nag-apply sana ako doon, hindi ako nakuha. In any case, so ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor, we will be speaking today, and we are graced by our very own Secretary of Department of Transportation, Secretary Jaime J. Bautista. And while he is going on stage, just to name a few of the Secretary's distinctions and awards, 2019 Leadership Award, SKL International Makati, 2018 Hall of Fame Tourism Awards, 2017 Bulong Pulungan, 2010 People of the Year, 2007 Aviation Person of the Year. Napakadami pong mga distinction po ng ating secretary na I think now that he is here, he will continue to be working with us to take care of our transportation as we go and do our ecotourism. Maraming salamat po. Let's welcome again our very own Secretary of Transportation, Secretary Jaime J. Bautista.
Thank you, Chiki, for that generous introduction. Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco of the Department of Tourism, Dr. Mina Gabor, President of International School of Sustainable Tourism, or ISST, Dr. Mundita Lim, Director of the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, Director of Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture, Mr. Masaru Takayama, Chairman of ASEAN Ecotourism Network, Mayor Alston Kevin Anarna of Silang Cavite, honored guests, fellow workers in government, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon or good morning. First of all, I would like to congratulate the ISST led by our good friend, Dr. Mina Gabor, for organizing this first international ecotourism travel mart in collaboration with the ASEAN or Asian Ecotourism Network and other partners. I have come upon the invitation of Dr. Gabor to join this important event as Transportation Secretary. Prior to this, my first government job, I supported many initiatives of ISST while I was still at the helm of our national flag carrier, Philippine Airlines. And after my retirement in 2019, I joined ISST as a member of the board of directors until June 30, 2022, when I joined the government of President Ferdinand Marcos. My stint at ISST would not be complete without remembering the late Robert Lim Joseph, or Bobby Joseph, our former director and vice chair of ISST, a staunch supporter of ecotourism. We both shared this advocacy. I miss Bobby by my side in this endeavor, and I hope to give tribute and honor to Bobby for his passionate contribution to ecotourism to the members of Bobby's family who are here today, especially his wife, Ida. Bobby was more than a good friend. He was an inspiration, a mover, a beacon of dedication to the preservation of the environment while promoting tourism. Today, I would like to explain to Dr. Gabor and to everyone here how I tried to transplant that ecotourism advocacy to the work we do at the Department of Transportation. Yesterday, we were at Intramuros to promote tourism while using eco-friendly transport facilities. We broke ground for the expansion of active transport facilities intended for users of bicycles and other non-motorized vehicles while immersing in the historical charm of old Intramuros. This tourism dimension to one of our road projects manifests our support to ecotourism. Buzzwords in my recent public engagements have swirled around ecotourism, green technology, eco-friendly transport, all towards the preservation of the environment. We recognize the imperative for transport initiatives to contain green recovery measures while promoting tourism. Transport infrastructure plays an important role towards an environment-friendly economic rebound. Sustainable mobility will hasten increased economic activities, while an environment-friendly transport infrastructure promotes convenient, efficient, and smooth mobility, free of any guilt of harming the environment. We will therefore push for non-disruptive programs that will benefit both transport stakeholders and the environment. Allow me to present some exciting transport projects with an ecotourism dimension. Let me start with the active transport program that I mentioned earlier. This involves putting up protected bike lanes and pedestrian and public transport infrastructures. We build infrastructures like protected cycling lanes and paths, end-of-trip bicycle facilities, safe and accessible pedestrian walkways, improvements of existing bike lanes, establishment of public transport stops, and allocation of at least 50% of road space for public transport, pedestrians, and bicycles. There are now 564 kilometers of bike lanes throughout the country, with another 470 kilometers more to be constructed this year. After our collaboration yesterday with the Department of Tourism at Intramuros, I am confident the potential of urban cycling as a tourist activity will attract young tourists to explore different sites using bicycles. Another road project is the EDSA Greenway, which provides commuters with an environment-friendly 5-kilometer elevated walkway along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue or EDSA. The covered green walkways will connect mass transit railway stations to other modes of transport. The project involves improving pedestrian facilities and enhancing accessibility to persons with disabilities, the elderly, and the very young. These greenways will be a welcome treat to tourists who prefer exploring using public transport, such as the mass rail transit system. Last month, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. joined us in Cebu to break ground for the Cebu Bus Rapid Transit, which will be duplicated in Davao, the Davao High Priority Bus Project. In highly urbanized cities abroad, this type of transport system is popularly patronized by tourists. It can be the same here once the bus rapid transit system have been fully developed. You are probably aware of the public utility vehicle modernization that will transform the country's road transport system by shifting from environment-polluting diesel engine jeepneys to modern, eco-friendly vehicles. Drivers and operators of traditional jeepneys are encouraged to use modern jeepneys or electric PUBs. We hope to preserve the iconic jeepney as a symbol of Philippine culture. We recently talked to Francisco Motors as well as other PUB manufacturers who agreed to build modern PUBs that still look like the traditional jeepney but conforming to Philippine national standards. These use environment-friendly Euro 4 or Euro 5 engines or even electric motors. Tourists can still take selfies and Instagram posts with this traditional-looking jeepney but equipped with modern features. In the railway sector, investing in rail projects is climate positive as it encourages modal shift to mass transport systems. Traveling by train has almost the same ecological footprint as walking. Trains emit lower CO2 emissions per kilometer traveled compared to other road-based transports. If you travel by a car, the footprint is 243.8 grams of CO2 per person per kilometer as compared to 28 grams per CO2 per person per kilometer via train. We have a number of big-ticket rail projects. One flagship rail project is the 147-kilometer-long North-South Commuter Railway or NSCR. The country's largest railway line starts at Clark in Pampanga to end at Calamba, Laguna. Travel time will be cut from 4 hours to less than 2 hours. Another mammoth rail project is the Metro Manila Subway, the country's first underground railway and the crown jewel of the country's mass transit system. The subway will start at Valenzuela in Bulacan to end at Bicutan with a spur line to Terminal 3 of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Travel time from Valenzuela to Terminal 3 will be reduced from 2 hours to just 45 minutes. The next big-ticket railway is MRT-7, which runs from North Avenue all the way to San Jose del Monte in Bulacan. Travel time will be reduced from 1.5 hours to 35 minutes. These rail projects promote eco-friendly mass travel because trains have significant lower carbon emissions compared to other modes of transport that use fossil fuel. This can become popular to tourists when managed and promoted well. Our benchmark are city trains in Hong Kong, Singapore, Seoul, London, and other highly urbanized cities where tourists prepare train rides. Meanwhile, in the aviation sector, airline operations have direct correlation to the promotion of ecotourism. Here at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, the Manila International Airport Authority undertook several small-scale measures to facilitate vehicular and passenger movement. Removal of the vehicle security checkpoint when approaching any of the terminals has improved traffic, which means reduced vehicle exhaust emissions. Also, removing the initial security screening at the terminal entrance likewise enhanced passenger flow through the terminal. This leads to improved operations that translates to fuel savings. Other Manila International Airport Authority initiatives are regular aircon maintenance and lighting improvement. These are, of course, for reducing power consumption at the terminals. We are also encouraging the shift to electric vehicles for the different ground equipment used by ground handlers in servicing aircraft. These enhancements have direct impact on tourist travel experience with least impact on the environment. Meanwhile, we are constructing and modernizing climate-resilient and eco-friendly green airports at different parts of the country to help minimize the impact of aviation activities on the environment. These airport enhancements directly impact on tourist experience the moment they arrive and when they leave the country. It can greatly determine whether these visitors will return or not. In the maritime sector, the Department of Tourism warmly welcomed the return of cruise ships that disgorged thousands of tourists at different ports at the start of their vacation. Let me explain how our maritime agencies are ensuring these revived tourism activities will not be harmful to the environment. First, we have what we call the Blue Solutions Project, which aims to prevent and reduce water transport emissions. It intends to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from ships, ports, and from hinterland transport. The Maritime Industry Authority, or MARINA, has an existing cooperation agreement with the Department of Science and Technology to adopt new and emerging marine transport technologies such as alternative fuels, energy-efficient transport technologies, renewable energy, green ports and intelligent transport systems, marine environment protection on shipbuilding, ship repair, and ship recycling, among others. Meanwhile, the Philippine Ports Authority, or PPA, has been pushing for greener and more sustainable port operations. Two PPA ports, namely Cagayan de Oro and Batangas, were recently declared compliant with the Green Port Award System, a program developed by the APEC Port Services Network, which is proof of PPA's commitment to attaining sustainable port operations. We are a firm advocate of the blue economy. We will aggressively push for the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improve livelihood and jobs while preserving the health of the marine and coastal ecosystem. By adopting eco-friendly technologies in the operation of seagoing vessels in our nationwide ports, we can assure tourists and visitors of safe and comfortable inter-island travels so that they can focus on creating lasting vacation memories. We also have thousands of Philippine Coast Guard personnel stationed at seaports to offer tourist assistance, complementing local tourism staff. In conclusion, we want to add impetus to increase efforts at combining sustainability and mobility. According to Dr. Emdus, a doctor of business at Aplis Business School in London, and I quote, "It isn't easy to think of the tourism sector without transportation. Transportation is the main means to carry the tourist to the actual site where tourism services are performed," unquote. He adds, tourism could be further developed if more could be done in various elements of transport systems. We have always put a high premium on ecotourism. This is behind the design of many of our transport projects to be able to support movement of visitors and tourists. We share the advocacy of ISST and the other eco-warriors. Completing big-ticket infrastructure for mass transport must be complemented by users and passengers who are conscious of their part at preserving the precariously delicate balance in the ecosystem of the concrete jungle. Collaboration is key. We must demonstrate our solidarity as it is in our best interest, and we owe it to future generations a better future and upgraded standards of living and quality of life. Maraming salamat, mabuhay, and magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po, Secretary Jaime J. Bautista. Indeed, an exciting day for us. Are we all excited? Ayan na yung buzzword natin today, ha? Kagaya ng sinabi sa atin ni Secretary Frasco. So today and the following days, when there is something that elates you, we can just say exciting, excited. And for on that note, we of course have our guest of honor keynote speaker. May we invite all of you to put your attention to the screen.
A lawyer by profession, she was a 3-term mayor of Liloan and Cebu. Under her leadership, the town reaped numerous awards and recognitions for governance and resilience. She was a spokesperson of then Vice Presidential candidate Sara Duterte before she was handpicked by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to become the youngest member of his cabinet by being the Secretary of the Philippine Department of Tourism.
To foster the Filipino brand is to spark our sense of pride and reaffirm our strong sense of identity. It is time to welcome the rest of the world with an enhanced Filipino brand that is unique, attractive, and creative.
Upon her assumption of office, Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco immediately engaged with tourism stakeholders across the country, meeting with tourism players from the sectors of accommodation, aviation, hospitality, creatives, and the media, prioritizing a dialogue with the Tourism Congress of the Philippines, and convening the first Tourism Coordinating Council meeting. as well as tourism players across the globe to know the realities on the ground. For Secretary Frasco, the listening tour is an important instrument that will give her first-hand insights on the prevailing challenges faced by the industry. Pursuant to the National Tourism Development Plan 2023 to 2028 and the listening tours, which provided critical information for the department to be able to craft relevant policies and programs that will spur tourism development across the country. The DOT embarked on an aggressive campaign to revitalize the Philippine tourism industry. The DOT, through the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, has started building tourist rest areas in various locations across the country to serve the needs of the traveling guests for a clean restroom, information center, and a rest area, among others. To contribute to gainful livelihood and generate employment, the DOT partnered with the Department of Labor and Employment and mounted the first ever Philippine Tourism Job Fair with the theme Trabajo, Turismo, Ascenso. The fair offered more than 9,000 tourism jobs across the country in its first leg and is expected to match more job seekers to tourism employment opportunities. The Department of Tourism partnered with the Department of Transportation to further enhance the visitor experience by proposing to introduce the Filipino brand in all major sea and airports of the country. In collaboration with the Department of Information and Communications Technology, the DOT targets to provide internet access to all 94 tourist destinations in the Philippines. In an innovative way to entice Filipinos to become tourism ambassadors of the Philippines, the DOT partnered with the Department of Migrant Workers to launch the online referral Bisita Be My Guest program. The DOT also launched the Tourism Champions Challenge to foster countrywide tourism infrastructure development by empowering mayors and communities across the Philippines to become tourism champions for the country, giving a combined amount of 180 million pesos to deserving LGUs. And the Philippine Experience Program, Arts, Culture, and Heritage Caravans. In November 2022, the DOT spearheaded the first ever North Luzon Travel Fair and the Mindanao Tourism Expo in January, paving the way for the resurgence of Philippine tourism. With Secretary Frasco at the helm of the DOT, the department also aims to launch a tourist life cycle app, a tourist hotline, and train no less than 100,000 tourism frontliners with the world-renowned Filipino brand of service excellence. Under the Marcos administration, the Department of Tourism intends to focus on connectivity, convenience, and equality. Today, the Philippines is the best country destination for tourism and the world's leading beach and dive destination. And the Department of Tourism is the winner in Routes Asia's destination category, putting premium on the Marcos administration's priority for tourism development and through consultative, inclusive, and collaborative engagement with the objective of heralding the Filipino brand across the globe. The Philippines is poised to take a primary position as a tourism powerhouse in Asia.
Requesting ASEC Berna Buensuceso to please come on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is my honor to introduce Philippine Tourism Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco.
Daghang salamat. Please do take your seats. Mayong udto kaninyong tanan. Good noon, everyone. And to all of our delegates from all over the world, a very warm welcome to the Philippines. We are very honored by the presence of my partner, the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Jimmy Bautista, our very own ecotourism champion, former Secretary of the Department of Tourism, Sec. Mina Gabor, Chairman Masaru Takayama of the Asian Ecotourism Network, and all of your board members, the Mayor of Silang Cavite, Mayor Alston Anarna, members of the Diplomatic Corps, other distinguished guests, officials of the Department of Tourism from our central office and regional offices, my fellow workers in government, ako makigsuunang Pilipino, maing udto kaninyong tanan. I am very honored to be here today to be part of this historic launch of the very first green travel mart in the world. You should give yourselves a round of applause. I come from the province of Cebu, where one of the main economic drivers is tourism. Prior to taking on the helm of the Department of Tourism as secretary, I was a mayor of a town that suffered the devastation not only of the pandemic, but like my fellow towns, also of Super Typhoon Odette. And so just as we were recovering from the ravages of COVID-19, and just as our economy was once again opening up, we suffered utter devastation as a result of climate change. And therefore, principles on ecotourism and sustainability are not mere words to me, but a way of life that should be pursued and lived. And I can see that there is much reason to hope in the future of ecotourism in the world, including the Philippines, because of champions such as yourself that have taken the time to be here and have taken the time to produce this ecotourism travel mart, notwithstanding all of the challenges that you have faced these past 3 years. I wish to congratulate especially our former Secretary of Tourism. By your leadership of this movement, these many years, and by the changes that you have instituted in the Department of Tourism, I have the blessing of continuing what you have started. Daghan kaayong salamat, Sec. Mina. To our guests from all over the world, I hope that you're feeling that beyond the warmth of this very sunny day, the warmth of the Filipino hospitality and the Filipino smile that is known all over the world. We are extremely proud to welcome you into the Philippines that has had its own fair share of calamity and devastation, but continues to be a top-of-mind destination all over the world as the world's leading beach destination, the world's leading dive destination, and Asia's leading tourist attraction. Not to mention, now, the world's leading country for tourism. The good news is that while the Philippines only opened up its borders in February of last year, we have exceeded our targets for international arrivals by almost 1 million, having received over 2.65 international visitors in 2022. Even before the close of this first quarter of 2023, we have already received over 1.3 million in international arrivals, and we foresee receiving over 4.8 million tourists internationally by the end of this year, and the full recovery of domestic tourism, who will take no less than 122 million domestic trips this year. In less than a year, the tourism industry has emerged once again to be one of the biggest contributors to the Philippine economy, having garnered over 214 billion pesos or nearly $4 billion in visitor receipts last year. That translated to what tourism greatly contributes to the lives of the Filipino people, and that is employment. Having garnered over 5.2 million in tourism employment for Filipinos last year. The effort since the beginning of the administration of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. that has identified tourism to be a priority under his administration is to convey to the world that the Philippines is open and ready for tourism once again. And that is why we have embarked in intergovernmental efforts to ensure that we lift the remaining stringent restrictions brought about by the pandemic. We have taken away the requirements for masks, testing, as well as replaced the One Health Pass with the e-travel card that consolidates the information needs of at least 5 government agencies. We have also partnered with the Department of Transportation to make you feel and see the Filipino brand the moment that you land in the airport. And I thank Secretary Jimmy Bautista for this partnership, as we are now well on the way to finishing the reconstruction of the interiors of NAIA Terminal 2 that will reflect solihia panels, the use of bamboo, and the work of Filipino hands in the form of Filipino furniture. We are happy to welcome once again cruises into the country and in a very big way. In 2019, we welcomed 102 cruise ships into the Philippines. This year, we're exceeding those numbers with no less than 139 cruise ships coming into the country across our 46 destinations. While our president has only been in office for 8 or 9 months, we have embarked in the work of addressing the most basic necessity in travel and tourism, yet often the most neglected: the need for clean and decent restrooms and our place for tourists to rest. That is why we have instituted the groundbreaking of no less than 10 tourist rest areas across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. That will have an information center, restrooms, as well as pasalubong centers to assist our local small and medium enterprises. Under the Marcos administration, we have begun the work of ensuring that sustainable tourism lies at the very heart of the tourism transformation of the Philippines. As the lead coordinator for environment and climate change in the ASEAN National Tourism Organizations, the Department of Tourism continues to ensure that sustainability is at the forefront of tourism development. The next few years post-pandemic will focus on recovery programs and policies that will not only promote resilience, but also advocate, most importantly, for sustainability, instilling a culture of tourism among the Filipino people that would entail a paradigm shift among all of us in the public and private sector. In the Department of Tourism, we realize that tourism can no longer just be about the numbers or quantity, but rather quality. And that is why events such as this that highlight the importance of sustainability are a gift not only to the Philippines, but to the world. You are the champions of sustainability that will ensure the longevity of tourism of all of our countries. You can clap for yourselves. In our National Tourism Development Plan 2023-2028 under the Marcos administration, we envision establishing a Philippine tourism industry that is anchored on the Filipino culture, heritage, and identity, which aims to be sustainable, resilient, and competitive in order to transform the Philippines into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. That is why the NTDP, that is how the NTDP will ensure that in every single plan and program that the Department of Tourism will pursue, sustainability will lie at the heart of all our efforts. Through the listening tours that we have conducted from the beginning of this administration across our regions and all over the world, we have been able to identify the 7 main goals of the department that seeks not only to exercise the traditional role of the Department of Tourism, which is to promote the Philippines, but most importantly, to focus on product development. We will undertake an aggressive infrastructure campaign together with the Department of Public Works and Highways, as well as increase accessibility to our destinations. We shall engage in cohesive and comprehensive digitalization and connectivity in partnership with the Department of Transportation and the DICT. And by directive of our President, we are enhancing the overall tourist experience. It is very important for us to not only focus on our key destinations, but to give equal opportunity to other emerging destinations, in that no destination should be left behind in tourism development. And that is why we are equalizing tourism promotion and development through our attached agencies, including the Tourism Promotions Board and the TIEZA. To support sustainability of our destinations and ensure their longevity, we do not seek to solely depend on our natural resources as far as our tourism offerings are concerned, and rather we seek to diversify our offerings through multidimensional tourism. We fully intend to maximize domestic and international tourism, and most importantly, we shall strengthen tourism governance through close collaboration with all of our partners here and abroad, both from the public and private sector, including all of you here today. We are also pursuing a partnership with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources for the purpose of establishing a National Sustainable Tourism Council, which the DOT will chair along with the DENR and the DILG to ensure that we are able to regulate the development of our sustainable tourism destinations. Taking the cue from our President, we are espousing consultative tourism governance. Therefore, the partnership of the Department of Tourism in this IETM will be a great opportunity for us to garner your opinions as well as your counsel and guidance as we work together towards a sustainable tourism development agenda in the years ahead. This will also inform our National Ecotourism Strategic Action Plan for 2023 to 2028. This action plan will form the blueprint of sustainable ecotourism development as a product of the concerted efforts among stakeholders of ecotourism through a series of community engagement and participatory planning exercises. With all of this in mind, our country will be ready to continue to welcome our guests from all over the world. We have launched the Bisita Be My Guest program, a guest incentive program that seeks to give opportunities to our fellow Filipinos to become tourism ambassadors for the Philippines by inviting a foreign friend, guest, or spouse into our country in exchange for the opportunity to win raffle prizes such as condominiums, airline tickets, and holiday packages across our destinations. And I would like to personally compliment and thank Dr. Mina Gabor for originating the idea for the Bisita Be My Guest in what was then known as the Bring Home a Friend program. Prior to becoming Secretary of Tourism, I took the time to study the national tourism development plans of all of our neighbors in the ASEAN. And what I have observed is that the question, or rather the answer to the question as to why we can never compete with our ASEAN neighbors in terms of tourism arrivals lies at the heart of the identity of these nations. and which is that they have anchored their tourism plans and programs on the strength of their identity and culture. May I compliment the delegation from Thailand that is here that has anchored all of their tourism programs and plans on the integrity of their Thainess. That is an excellent approach that the Philippines would like to benchmark. And that is why we have launched the Philippine Experience Program, which seeks to give our tourists the opportunity not only to visit our beaches, our nature-based trails and the like, but also, more importantly, the opportunity to take a peek into the heart and soul of the Filipino through vestiges of our culture in the form of our festivals, our food, the product of our artisans and makers. This is benchmarked from the very successful Suroy Suroy Sogbo program of the province of Cebu. To further our sustainable development measures in the Department of Tourism, we are relaunching the Anahaw certification that gives incentives to accommodation sectors that apply sustainable development and green practices in their sectors. As well, we are in the process of relaunching the national accreditation standards of the department in order to incentivize the application of green and sustainable practices, as well as the introduction of the Philippinization of our tourism enterprises. In our effort to become the next tourism powerhouse in Asia, we shall engage in all of the programs and plans that we have laid down, but at the same time, view our ASEAN neighbors not as our competitors, but rather as our partners. I recently had the opportunity to join my fellow tourism ministers from all over the ASEAN and other Asian countries at the ASEAN Tourism Forum in Indonesia. And there I engaged in several bilateral talks with tourism ministers from these countries and had the agreement with them that no longer should we pursue tourism development individually, but as a whole. Imagine the massive potential of ASEAN and Asia should we present our countries as one unified tourism destination to the rest of the world. We want our tourists that come into the Philippines not only to enjoy our destinations for a time, but to leave the place better than when they found it, and as well to keep coming back to our country. That is why we have instituted measures to ensure that true tourism development can be felt across the country. We have recently launched the Tourism Champions Challenge to encourage our mayors from our over 1,400 municipalities and over 100 cities all over the Philippines to become tourism champions for our country. We're encouraging them to present tourism proposals that comply with the 7 objectives of the Department of Tourism, all upon the bedrock of sustainable tourism. And we are giving away no less than 180 million pesos in total to local government units across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Recognizing the greatest strength of the Philippine tourism industry being our Filipino tourism workers, we have embarked on a very aggressive campaign to train no less than 100,000 Filipino tourism workers in the Filipino brand of service excellence. The idea being that as we train these 100,000 workers in the values of Philippine hospitality and sustainability, they will be beacons of hospitality excellence to our over 110 million Filipinos ready and willing to welcome tourists from around the world. I have high hopes that the IETM will give us a better perspective on the necessity of sustainable tourism and the importance of applying these principles to the ground. Because the need to emphasize the necessity of sustainability is urgent. We have come out of a pandemic and various calamities, and we cannot wait to recover and transform our tourism industry. Once again, I congratulate all of you for this historic and momentous Green Travel Mart. You have in the Department of Tourism a partner in all of your sustainable tourism endeavors. Daghan kayong salamat kaninyong tanan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Secretary Frasco. Truly, truly, as you would say, exciting. Secretary, may we ask you to return to stay on stage because you will be officially opening our Travel Mart, and may we also at this point request to join our Secretary Frasco for the banging of the gongs, the Earth Queens and Voices of ASEAN Biodiversity. May I call on Miss Earth 2022, Mina Sue Choi, Miss Korea, Miss Philippines Earth 2022, Jenny Ram, Miss Indonesia Earth 2022, and Karina Basriwan. Excited. We're so excited as you bang po. To officially open, ladies and gentlemen, we have the banging of the gongs by our Secretary of Tourism, Secretary Frasco. Woo! Exciting! Woo! May we have an exciting clap for everybody. Yay! One more daw. Trial lang daw yun. Okay? Thank you, sir. And may we invite, with the leading of our secretaries, Secretary Frasco and Secretary Bautista, to invite everybody to go do a quick tour po of the travel fair, and then we will have an eco lunch after. Sir, thank you, the Dr. Mina Gabor and Secretary Bautista. And may request all our guests, our ambassadors, and our special guests from all over the world to please join our secretary. Everybody, as we finished doing a quick round of the Travel Mart, please come back here as we will have an eco brunch as well. That's also exciting.
Miss Earth Queens would like to take a photo with you.